Fear is often the number one thing that holds us back from taking the next big step in our businesses. We have so much fear of failure that we end up trapping ourselves.
Fear kind of narrows your focus, and then you just hyper focus on the thing that's scaring you.
Yeah.
And the problem is that you start missing things. You start to miss the opportunity, and you start to miss the wins that you are getting.
Half the time, we don't feel like taking that leap of faith. There's a lot at stake and there's a lot of fear. We learn how to do it anyway.
You can go fast because of your fear into the new opportunity, or you can pull back and be afraid but not be going anywhere.
Face the facts here. You gotta look in the mirror and say, what am I not bringing to the table today?
And that's the thing about entrepreneurs, is that we do have big vision. And so unfortunately, your big vision can become big nightmare if you're not keeping it seriously.
In this episode, we're gonna give you practical strategies to bust through the fears, really rewire your mind, and come out the other side a winner. What's up, familia? It's Kim.
And Chris.
And you're listening to the Business Lounge podcast.
In each episode, we'll break down all the latest in online marketing, give you all the deets on what's working now to turn your content into customers, boost your leads and sales, and scale your business fast.
All without compromising on what you care about most: faith, family, and freedom. And listen, it's all real, raw, and unfiltered. So let's start the show. Welcome back to the Business Lounge podcast. I'm your co-host, Kimberly Jimenez. I'm here with Mr. Christopher, and I'm super excited because you always get mad that I don't call you Chris.
Mr. Christopher. It's funny, when I was a kid, I was determined to be different, and so I made people call me Christopher instead of Chris.
So there you go. I'm playing into it.
Kim apparently got the memo on that one.
But anyway, guys, in this episode, we're tackling part 2 of how do you actually bust through fears? How do you rewire your mind? How do you become unstoppable? How do you not let the fear actually hold you back? And in the previous episode, we talked about excuses, about self-sabotage, about letting fear and a lot of the doubts that we often have paralyze you. So in this episode, I think is super, super important, because the last one, we got voice messages. We had clients crying to us like, oh my gosh, this felt like you were speaking directly to me, which was so amazing.
They thought we were
they thought we were talking about them.
Yeah. That we made it for it. I was like, wow. No, but it wasn't the case. It's just we've been there. We get it. Yeah, we've been there. And look, we've talked about this. We're in a weird season in the world.
Right.
I think you're fooling yourself to say otherwise. And so this is what comes with that, right? Is like uncertainty and some little bit harder economic times. Like let's call it what it is, right? Let's call it what it is. Economic times that are really hard on people. Things cost a lot more money. Housing is wildly unaffordable. I was looking at an index. It's like the most unaffordable that it's been in like maybe ever, right? Like I don't know if that's specifically ever, but like way up there.
Yeah.
And then the average income that's required to even be eligible to buy a home right now is ridiculous, right?
Insane.
And so there's a lot there. And as a business owner, it's easy to slip into fear. And I think it's easy to feel, specifically with looking online and seeing other people or, everybody smiling faces, to be like, I'm the only one going through this, which I think is actually amplifies the fear to a large degree, right? And so even like telling some of our clients that like, hey, yeah, like we know this and this and this client, not by name, but we'll like say, everybody's going through this. They're like, oh, really? Like, oh, okay, well, everybody's going through. Like it kind of normalizes it a little bit. And so we just kind of want to let you guys know that fear is part of the game here. And we get to choose our fear. Kim often says we get to choose our suck. We get to choose what we do. Like you go to a job and you have. I had an entrepreneurial mentor back in the day, and he used to say this. He goes, having a job is not less risky. He goes, you have one customer instead of many.
Exactly.
And I was like, ooh,
that's a good reframe.
Good. Like notating that one, but it's true. Like you could wake up tomorrow, and for whatever reason, your boss or your place of employment, they're like, yeah, especially now with AI, like, hey, like we're going a different direction, and that's it.
That happened to me. I mean, legit, like I started a business. It was one of the scariest things I'd ever done, even though I was running the moving company with you, had a corporate job because Chris really pushed me into the marketing world. I got offered a corporate job. So I had clients on the side doing social media management. And at the time, that was like my dream job. It was amazing. I was 22 years old, no marketing background whatsoever. And this company basically recruited me, and they were like, we want you to lead our entire social media division. We had 14 different properties all over the United States. It was student housing company. And here I am working in corporate with a bunch of interns in charge of like hundreds of social media posts every single week. It was wild. We had like a $4 million marketing budget. So it was fun times, but I knew that God had something bigger for me and that he was calling me to help small business owners, which is where my heart has always been. And so I remember the fear of leaving that job, the fear of leaving like a company culture, an environment that was so positive, so uplifting, so just unbelievably fun, but grueling, still fun because that's corporate.
Yeah.
It was hard and there was a ton of fear involved. I remember like crying to you and being like, I just can't do this. I feel like I'm so, selfish and I'm not grateful for the opportunity. And I remember talking to your dad. He took me out to lunch and he was like, Kim, never, ever, ever, ever be afraid to move from something good into something great.
Oof.
And
Mic drop.
just killed it. And I was like, man, right?
Pretty good.
So I remember writing my resignation letter and literally like tears streaming down my face. Like, what am I doing? Am I making the biggest mistake?
Well, we had come out of a season where like financially we were in a terrible, you know what I mean? Like
startup,
we were married at that point, but both of us, I mean, we were like, if we could get together and buy a can of peas, like we were killing it, right? So for her to come out of that where we had a stable like situation, and at least on her side, and I was, hustling, right? Like
doing moves yourself.
I was out there doing the moves myself because I could pay myself like the hourly rate that I would have paid a mover to, whatever. Yeah. And so it was illogical in many
100%. It was completely
for her
illogical
to leave that job. Yeah. It was illogical, and sometimes that's what this game requires.
100%. But listen, this is why I feel like you have to be in alignment with what God is calling you to do.
100%.
Because I remember putting that resignation letter and my boss calling me into his office and who was the president of the company, was like, what is this? Yeah. What am I reading right now? He's like, is it the money? Are you unhappy here? I'm like, no, I love it. It's my dream job, but I just feel called to do this thing. I want to start an agency. And he was like, are you sure? I remember he asked me, do you have general liability insurance? And you had told me to get it like the night before. And so, and I did get it. I had it. And I was like, yes. He's like, you do? Like it was such a shift for him to be like, oh, she's serious, and I was like, yes, I did. And I have all, I'm filing and all these things. He's like, I'm going to pretend like we never received this resignation letter. He was like, why don't we become your first corporate client instead? Boom. And I was like, what?
I think I told you that was going to happen.
Look at God. I think you did tell me that.
I think I said.
You were like, watch it. They'll probably hire you back. And I was like, no way.
Because she was doing a great job. So they're not going to want her to go. And I said, what probably could happen is now they don't have to cover your medical and you're receiving benefits.
It's a great trade-off.
And so they're paying you less for basically the same level of output. Like you weren't dialing back the level of output, right? So it's like it only is in their best interest. And I have to like find somebody else, and it's like this this really tiresome process to just be like, okay, well, can we become a client?
Yeah.
And I think I was telling you like you should pitch them on that.
Oh my gosh.
Right? But regardless,
I didn't. And it just came up organically.
Yeah, which is great.
Which is so cool.
Best case scenario, right?
Yeah, it was incredible. So like taking that leap of faith was literally, I felt like everything inside of me was going to die because it was so scary. I was terrified to do that. Yeah. And yet, right, that phrase I always talk about, even if, and yet, God showed up in beautiful ways. And that doesn't mean that every time you take a leap, by the way, that you're going to have like a safety net. Do not expect that to happen. We've taken leaps and fallen flat on our faces before. That's part of the game.
She's looking at me on that one.
No, I have too. Like we have stories for days.
She's looking at me.
But the reality is, I think sometimes we don't understand, like that quote says, everything that we want is on the other side of fear.
That's true.
Everything that we want.
We don't,
and we expect to not be afraid. We expect for the fear to be go away, and for us to walk confidently into our mission, into our calling. And it's like, no, I did it terrified. You have to learn how to do it terrified too.
Those are just words until you actually live it. And
it's
then you're
true.
like, oh, that's what it means.
100%.
And I think, it's not human of you to assume that doing something like this, that we're really bad with trade-offs. We're really bad at accepting a set of proper expectations.
Right.
None more than myself, right? Because we get into this thing with the dream, right? We get into this thing with the vision, and that's all exciting and well and good. And then you get into it, and you're like, oh, this is actually pretty scary stuff.
The reality smacks you in the face.
And so, I think you have to assess that. And this is not discouraging you to start. If you haven't started, if you're watching this, be like, I'm not starting that then. I'm not, every element, to me, everything in life could be scary, theoretically. You know what I mean? Anything you engage with that's new, that's exciting, that gets you, there's going to be some scary or some trade-offs there to accept that. It's scary for me, like I said, to enter into a 9-to-5 in which they can decide at any point in time, I'm no longer wanted or needed here. That's a scary proposition. I control none of that.
100%.
And so for me, it's choosing the scary and also normalizing the fear.
Yes.
And so we're going to talk about the 4 different types, because actually gave us 4 or 5 common fears that we should cover. And so I thought this was a good outline to follow.
For sure.
But 1 is fear of failure, right? We're going to talk about that. 2 is fear of judgment.
Oof, that one's big.
3 is fear of success. 4 is fear of the unknown, and 5 is fear of rejection. So there indeed are 5
That's so good.
that are the most common based on the research we did for entrepreneurs, right? So do you want to take one of these and run with that? I know we kind of talked about, that was a pretty big fear situation to leave something good, and go into something great, maybe.
Well,
hopefully.
Totally. But here's, I think, the silver lining in all of it. I know I initially started by you saying, that we have essentially a client of one when we're working for other people. But that was the case for me. The story ended well, and I got to work, have my first corporate client become, one of my coolest success stories and testimonials. But it wasn't 2 years after that the company went through what is usually called an inventory sale. And so they sold all of their properties at one time, laid off the entire marketing team. I'm talking my boss, my boss's boss, my boss's boss's boss, and everyone under me. And I would have been laid off 2 years later had I not figured out, I needed to answer the call and do it now, right? Sometimes I think that we expect all the pieces to be in place before we take the leap. And what we don't realize is if we don't take the leap, there is a chance that God is protecting us from something else that's coming. And so we think that the safety of it is I'm not saying quit your 9-to-5. Okay. We have a strategy to that, and we can talk about
There's
that.
no call to action here.
But essentially, no, please don't do that. But essentially, the rug got pulled from under all the entire team. And I can't imagine, they started businesses 2 years after. I already had an established business. Things were rocking and rolling. I had figured out a bunch of things that they were now just trying to figure out on their own. And it was crazy to see how God worked that situation. So I think sometimes we, what was the first fear?
Failure.
We have so much fear of failure that we end up trapping ourselves and making
and a failing situation.
And exactly. But it's almost like we are essentially crafting that same outcome that we're afraid of because we're not willing to take the steps. And that would have happened to me. If I would have stayed stuck in fear of failure, I would have never launched, and then I would have ended up with no business and no job. Which would have been wonderful.
What do you think when it comes to fear of failure for entrepreneurs, for online business owners? The people we work with, what do you think we're seeing as their number one fear of failure? Is it not the financial scarcity, not having enough money, seeing the numbers dwindle?
I think for the girls, I think for us, a lot of it is pouring our heart and soul into a project that never takes off. I think it's putting in the time and the effort and the money.
So rejection then?
Yes, in a way.
Because fear of rejection
I think those
is
two are
number
connected.
5.
I think those two are connected in the way like this is never going to take off. It's never
Yeah.
going to bear fruit. It's never going to be, the thing. And the problem is you have a lot of us who, we're kind of convincing our partners.
Yeah.
And we got the hubbies involved and they're invested. And it's like, okay, I better figure this out because now my family has, invested in this concept or in this idea. And there's a lot of pressure around that.
Yeah.
What do you think it is for most of our clients or for the guys?
Yeah, I think what I'm seeing a lot is people that see that they're having some months in the red. And it just creates a lot of it, especially for the ones, like for us, right? Like we're supporting humans, like we're supporting salaries here.
You're talking more of the established people.
Yeah. When you're more established, you
100%.
and we're going to talk about fear of success because it leads into fear of success, right?
Yeah.
Some people will scale themselves down because they don't want that responsibility or that stress,
Right.
And so they're not fully stepping into their calling because of that. But what I'm seeing a lot of now, like I mentioned, is economic pullback, which means you got to bring more of your marketing game. Like one of the things I've been saying recently is that ads are no longer optional. Like you've got to run ads because here's what happened. And this is the problem with fear, guys. Fear makes your mind, your eyes, your focus really, for those that are listening, not watching, I'm doing like, the blinders are up, right? Fear kind of narrows your focus. And then you just kind of like hyper focus on the thing that's scaring you.
Yeah.
And the problem is that you kind of you start missing things, right? And you start to miss the opportunity and you start to miss the resources you do have and you start to miss the wins that you are getting. And so all it is literally when you're operating in a season like that, where you've seen pullback or customers are not renewing or whatever your situation is, right? And it's because of economic reasons, which may very well be real, is cool. Well, I got to cast a bigger net. Like I got to get out there and I got to hustle harder. I got to use other people's audiences. I got to show up and do some collaborations. I got to run ads, right? Just broaden your scope. And so when we see that happen now, it's like, okay, we got to get really aggressive on the ads game because it means there are always players with money and there's always a new opportunity. The game is who gets to the new opportunity faster, who reaches the person fastest. And it's not a race. You're not racing against the whole entire market, but it is in your, look, I was telling a client, I was like, you can go fast because of your fear into the new opportunity, or you can pull back and be afraid but not be going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like that's on you. That's your decision. But pulling back is not going to make you less afraid. If anything, it's going to make you afraid in the future to try ever again, right? Like it's only a losing game at that point.
But also you'll stay stuck. If you let
100%.
the fear take over,
100%.
that means that you're going to be completely closed off to new creative ideas of switching things up, trying new things.
Right.
And I think it's really important too that when you're in those seasons, you remember that it's a season. It doesn't have this like, catastrophic reflection on you as a human being, on your value, on what you're bringing to the table. There's economic shifts and things in the market that you can't control. There is never going to be, a season, not a season, but a, prolonged period of time in which you're always going to be growing. That is not realistic. If you look at most companies, at some point they plateau. At some point they have losses. And it's about getting back in the game and being like, okay, what is this new toolkit? What is this new strategy? What got me here is not what's going to get me there.
Yep.
Cool. Let me level up my skill set so that I know how to better guide my company.
We've talked about mental conditioning in previous episodes, right? And it's like, it's really hard as an entrepreneur to think different than what we've been accustomed to our whole entire lives. Like if you took the test and you made a C, that's done. And maybe you do better on the next one. Like, but it's over. And I think we carry that with us. Like that month hereby was in the red. And so we don't play the game of being like, okay, what's the new opportunity? What's the next opportunity? Or like, not a big deal. We took a little bit of a step back. Okay, cool. Like it's always about the next thing. And I remember my executive coach, he challenged me at one point. He said, because we were in a pullback season, and he said, so what? He goes, do you feel like you're moving in the direction that long-term is going to be like the most fruitful path you're going? Because it was, we're like, what was working before wasn't working. We were going to something new, but we knew it was the direction we needed to go. And that was really scary because we had done so well and we had served tens of thousands of people doing things a certain way. And then we were completely shifting and going a totally different way. And he goes, if you took $100,000 and you said, I'm putting that into this growth. He goes, what do you think would you get back in this new direction? And I said, $1 million plus easily because I know it's the way. He goes, well, then do that. And if you're $100,000 in the hole and you're making $1 million back, he goes, he goes, hey, you don't have to be a genius mathematician to figure out that 10x return is worth it, right? So we see 1 month in the red or one season where we're not making as much money. Like there are companies, guys, that go, big companies, corporations, that go multiple years in a row in the red.
Or never.
Some retailers aren't in the black. That's why they call it Black Friday, by the way.
Yes.
Because, no, seriously.
I know.
The reason they call it Black Friday is because a lot of retailers are not, they're in the red the entire year until Black Friday. And that's where they get over the hump and get profitable for the entire year is on that one day.
You said that like we were arguing with you. You're like, no, really.
Oh, really? No, really.
He's listening to you guys from afar.
So we tend to like manage our business like we like manage our personal finances.
Yes.
You know, it's
because
like, I couldn't make rent this month.
But we haven't been taught otherwise.
Right.
You know?
Right. So I've always been trying to think of a metaphor that makes sense for this, but you're investing in something that is not you as a person.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't say anything about who you are. It lives outside. It's like if you're working on a project at school, right? And hey, we didn't make as much progress this month, but it doesn't say anything about who you are as a person.
Yeah.
You just get back at it and work on the project.
Yes.
And I think if we looked at our businesses that way, we would probably if the business doesn't work, if your school project didn't go as well as you wanted to, there's always another school project. And I'm not saying like, hey, whatever, throw your business out the window. Like that's not what I'm saying. But you get the opportunity to readdress it or reinvent yourself or reinvent the way you do things. And it doesn't speak to like, oh my gosh, this is forever going to be like pinned to like the scarlet letter, like forever I'm this failed like person. And because I had 2 months in the red or 6 months in the red or even a year in the red, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can change the dynamic in the situation literally in a matter of a week. But you got to keep your mind in the game, because if you live in that paralysis of fear, unfortunately, what ends up happening is it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like you keep, like Kim says, you stay stuck. You're doing the same things. You're not seeing the new opportunity. You're not moving in a new direction. You're not figuring out what other people are doing that they're winning. You're pulling back on your investments and your coaching. Like we just hired our third, probably going to hire a fourth coach right now because we're in this weird economic season where we are seeing a pullback with our own numbers, and we're like, woof, like we got to find out where the new opportunity, who's winning. And
wait, hold up. But we're more profitable this year than we are last year.
We are, which is crazy.
You're just saying in our market, we're seeing a pullback.
In our market, we're seeing people that have been in this business for 10 years being like, I'm not in this game anymore.
Yeah, they're retiring.
And we're like, whoa. So that the big names, like the Nikes of our industry are pulling back and going bye-bye. And so we're like, okay, this is an opportunity. Right. We are seeing numbers come down across the board in this industry, even though we're doing better. Mm-hmm. And it's for that reason. It's because we did invest in mentors and coaching.
We tripled down.
It's a different paradigm. It's a different way of thinking about things, I think, that we have to adopt.
But that's the mindset thing, right? Mm-hmm. So I remember 3 years ago, my business coach said, we're about to see the most amount of online businesses close that we ever have. She called it. And she told us straight up, like, hey, people in this room, in this mastermind, half of you are not going to make it. Oof. And we're like, whoa,
that's brutal.
Brutal. But it gave me the like, hey, fire in my butt to actually get in line and figure out some things that I needed to figure out, that we needed to figure out, that I had been, putting off and putting off and putting off. Yeah. And it was really amazing. And I think that's why everyone needs coaches. Coaches need coaches because it's a hard season. One of the things too, Chris, that I thought you brought up was so powerful was how we wrap ourselves in the identity of our business and how dangerous that game can be.
So dangerous, man.
You and I both have experienced major failures in our businesses, our respective businesses, and major successes. So we've been to the top of the mountain and we have been in the valley many times. Yeah. We know what that's like. And so if you do not guard the war in your mind, if you do not protect yourself from the constant attacks that are going to come relentlessly, in your mind, you are never going to get through the obstacles and the challenges and into that bigger, brighter future because we're wrapping our entire identity in what we should not wrap it in. If your identity is anywhere else but Christ, you have a major problem in your business. And we were baby, immature entrepreneurs and did that. And it almost killed us spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, because we thought this is the end. This is the end.
Yeah, I lost myself for 3 years.
It was bad.
Yeah, I lost myself for 3 years because I had gotten so wrapped up in being Chris, the successful entrepreneur. And then when I had a major health crisis and I had to step back from that business, because it just demanded so much of
too
me.
much.
It was just, I mean, the 18-hour days was
more.
And I was in my mid-20s, and you know, it's like you're learning. It was like people say, "Oh, you're drinking through a fire hose." It was like 10 fire hoses. You know, like I'm 25. I don't know how to manage $500,000 in cash or revenue lag, and you know what I mean? Like I had cash flow situation. I remember, like, talk about fear. Jeez.
You had clients who owed you like
$400,000, $442 or $430 something thousand that they owed, and I was driving. We were all over the country at that point. I was driving through Manhattan. I'll like never forget this. I remember what I was wearing. I remember where I was. And I was trying to catch a flight, and I had to be there. Like the flight was leaving like 20 minutes, and I wasn't even at the airport yet. And I'm driving a rental car through Manhattan. I'm on my phone, which you're not supposed to be. It's like 5 points against your license apparently in Manhattan to be like on the actual phone, not speakerphone. And I was talking to some random guy that I didn't know that I got connected to. This is a true story. Like I'm not. There's no hyperbole. This actually happened. And he was some attorney that somebody. I had an outsourced CFO, and we had. It was Wednesday night, and we had payroll's gonna be Friday, and I think it was gonna be like $65,000 in payroll plus all the expenses for the guys on the road. So all these installation jobs that my guys were doing,
somewhere like 80.
It was probably 80, yeah. But they're in hotels, rental cars, food, and they all have company cars, and they're relying on that because they have like a per diem, right? And they, you know. A lot of the guys were broke, so they were. I mean, they couldn't pay for anything outside of. I mean, they could have maybe bought themselves a hamburger, right? Mm-hmm. Like they needed these company cars to clear and go through. And I think we had like maybe $2,000 in the operating account, and I needed 80.
I remember you called me, and you were literally in a straight panic.
But like, it got to the point, and this is where I understand where people have fear of success, and probably going to give you more of this.
No more.
Here's a nice double dose of fear of success.
Rewire your brain in the opposite direction.
I think I was 26 maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm driving through Manhattan, and I'm talking to this guy that I've never met, and I'm asking him for $80,000.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, so the
outsource... Oh, you got connected to someone who would give you a bridge loan?
Basically. So the outsourced CFO, she's like, hey, like I know this guy. He's super high net worth. He's an attorney in North Atlanta. And she goes,
no, she didn't.
Yeah. And she goes, he really gets it. He loves startups. Like he'll probably give you a loan. You know, short-term loan.
She was the worst CFO anyway.
No, she was terrible. She even had
this.
Yeah, I should have like fired her after day one because
I could have been a better CFO.
She came and looked at our QuickBooks online, and she didn't know how to set up our chart of accounts. Well, that's kind of day one stuff.
Well, listen, you don't have to be an accountant. But the fact that she never was able to give you any revenue projections or give you a system to even closely monitor what your payroll would be was insane.
And I had only really developed my skill as a salesperson. And I always thought that like growth in a business was making sales. And I learned quickly that like, no, there's a lot of levers of growth in a business and not just sell yourself into Timbuktu.
But anyway, go back to your story. So this was
after I sold myself into Timbuktu, and now I was owed a ton of money, but I wasn't getting paid that money because all those projects of install jobs, you had to hit milestones of completion before you unlocked another contractually obligated round of payment on that job. And then they were like net 30 terms, meaning they have to pay within 30 days.
No.
But it would easily become net 90, net 120. And me being young and wanting to like just take on the world, like I should have put my foot down at that. You know, again, I'm 25, 26 years old, but been like, hey, attorney, like, can you send them a letter and let them know, like, we're not working tomorrow on this new project until, and we ended up doing that eventually. But this was when I was still trying to be like, golly gee, I'm a team player. And so I'm on the phone.
They definitely took advantage of that.
They knew. And it was the Chinese, and this is like cultural.
But
like,
the French too.
The French were the worst. Yeah, they were bad. So all these companies were basically overseas, and they imported this furniture for these student housing apartments. This was off campus, like private student housing apartments. And so the Chinese guys, I mean, they kind of like they kind of get off on screwing people, like they really do. Like it's like a cultural thing.
It was like 6 months, right? That they
6
owed
months,
you.
Yeah, I don't know, $65,000 and here and there, whatever, But anyway, I was owed I think it was $444,000, $443, somewhere almost $500,000 I was owed, and I needed 80 to make pay run in like less than 36 hours, right? So I'm talking to this attorney, never met the guy, and I'm asking him for an $80,000 loan. Flying through Manhattan trying to catch a flight to get to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because I had a guy that had quit as a project manager, and he had a crew showing up the next day with no project manager going to be there, nor somebody was going to give him their paychecks. So this was my life, right? This was my life. So I totally get the state of fear, the state of the unknown, right? We ended up getting it funded. We ended up making payroll, this and that. But like, dude, you talk about being in a situation where you're like, how did I end up here?
I don't think
like,
you know
how
fear
am I
until
here?
you're 36 hours away from having to pay your company payroll, and it's
80 grand. And all these guys were college kids that were working for me that had parents, and you better believe they were all going to blow me up. Be like, you sent my son to North Nebraska, and now they have no money. I mean, even when the cards would fail, because the bank would trip these cards, and they would try to check into a hotel or whatever, and it wouldn't clear, and they would get there like 2 a.m. or something because they drove from Georgia, where we were located at the time. And I was asleep. So Kim can tell you, like, all the time I was waking up in the middle of the night. Like, I didn't sleep for like 4 years. And I would have to wake up to like call the bank. Yeah, you can clear the transaction. It's fine. Yeah, I approve the transaction. But their parents would call me and be like, "What? You sent my kid to Nebraska and your cards are failing?" I'm like, "Yeah, because we're just growing so fast. Like we just." The bank's like, what is going on here?
Like, why are you in Nebraska?
What are you doing? You got guys here, you got guys there. You know what I mean? So they're like just doing their thing to think that they're going to have a bunch of fraudulent claims, disputed charges or whatever.
So when we tell you that we understand fear of failure, we understand fear of rejection, we know what it is to be like, oh my gosh, we have 300 seasonal employees and they all need to get paid and people aren't paying us. What are we going to do? Yeah. But the reality is too, Chris, this brings me up to like the next point too. And that is that I feel like you have to challenge and check yourself.
Yeah.
I think you need to develop as an entrepreneur a mechanism of really thinking through the junk that's in your head and whether or not it's actually legit.
No, 100%.
I think as a Hispanic, that is like ingrained in me since I was little. My parents were always like, is this true? What you're telling yourself? Are you actually afraid because you're incapable, or are you afraid because it's just new and different? And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we are so comfortable and coddled by society where everything is fast and everything is instant gratification and everything is like, oh, your feelings and tell me how you're feeling. And it's like, guys, feelings are valid, but they should not rule how you operate day to day. You need to be the master of your feelings and your emotions. Half the time, we don't feel like taking that leap of faith. There's a lot at stake and there's a lot of fear. We learn how to do it anyway. And if you don't practice that in the little things, like I will have people who will message me. We'll get the messages, this is not really from our clients, but from people who are just getting started in like our lower level programs. I'll be like, I'm just so afraid of being on camera on YouTube. And I'm like, I get that.
Yeah.
But that fear compared to the fear of not making payroll, like big difference, right? But you will not get to the point where you can actually take big steps of faith in your life and in your business unless you check yourself and you're like, what's the worst thing that could happen if I put myself out there on YouTube? A couple people say some mean things. Okay, everyone gets criticism on the internet. Is that the worst thing? Is that worse than me not actually building my dream business and answering the calling? No, it's not. So I think sometimes we also need to grow up a little bit and we have to self-check ourselves and challenge ourselves.
We're kind of soft.
We're so soft.
Yeah, we're kind of soft.
It's ridiculous.
So there's a couple of mental checks. So something that I do, as like Kim mentioned, I think it's such a great point. Mental self check-ins, right?
Yeah.
Like, so oftentimes at the end of every week, I'll be like, I do an exercise. What am I missing? What am I making too hard? Right? Just as a check in entrepreneurship, because when you're in the trenches, it's like I've mentioned, it's paradoxical. You don't see the things that are right in front of your face. And so I challenge myself to think about what we're missing, what we're making too hard. But also when things suck, when things are not going well, when we send the email, we don't get, a sale and we've busted our butts on the sales page we put together, or, we put out a video and it gets 12 views or whatever, right? Like, where's the money going to come from this month? Those kind of things, right? Two things I've been practicing myself, right? Just to make sure that I'm checking myself whatever happens, right? Will I lose sleep over this in 5 years? Right? Am I going to lose sleep over this 5 years from now? Is this going to be something that I look back, like I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm still can't sleep. Probably not. You're not even think about it. It's just, you don't even remember. If somebody mentioned it, you'll probably be like, oh yeah, that happened once, So it's insignificant, but we hyper focus on it now. We put it under a microscope because it's the current thing, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is perspective of there's other people in the world that would kill to be in your position, to have the problems that you have. They would be like, that's an amazing problem to have. Like, you're doing your own thing in your own business and you get to make money doing that. But like temporarily nobody opened your email. Like for real? Like that's your thing? Like when I think about that, I'm like, I'm embarrassed. You know what I mean? Like I can't bring that kind of sauce to the playground. You know what I mean? Like that, you can't bring that weak sauce to the playground. Because you're talking about people, third world countries, or people that like really like suffer, right? Like like they don't know where they're going to get food today. Like they don't know, like they're war-ridden countries. Like my godfather, he grew up in a middle of a civil war in the British Guyana in South America, and like he literally went to school and there was a bomb, and he woke up like 6 p.m. that night. Like literally he was unconscious the entire day. He was laying face down on the pavement. And like dead bodies were all around. I mean, I'm not trying to be gross here, but like that was his reality. Yeah. And then his mom never met his father. His mom moved to New York City for better opportunity. And he was basically like at 11 years old, like just, all right, like here I am, because mom was working like 2 or 3 jobs. So he was on his own. He was an only child. Like there was no like an older sibling to take care of him. So he's like the mean streets of New York City.
Yeah.
And that was probably deep in the middle of like a lot of the civil rights type stuff that's around his age range, right? So like there was probably some racial prejudice and stuff that was happening. And so, you know what I mean? Like perspective, bro.
Yeah.
Because every time you look to your left or to your right, I can do that right now. She had a much harder upbringing than I had. Like I had fairyland compared to this stuff. Like, oh, my parents in their $500,000 home on the square. We lived on the square. You know, like legit. Like I had like the guy down the street was on CNN. Like for real. Like I'm not exaggerating. Like the dude across the street worked at Mercedes-Benz and drove 2 AMGs. You know, like another guy was a pilot on the other side. Like I had some pretty simple problems in the world, you know, and that was really hard for me to get in the startup world, because that's not something I had to worry about, was where like my next meal was going to come from. Like I had the whole basement to myself.
Hold up. I didn't either. Just letting everyone know. What? I didn't have to worry about where my next meal was going to come from. It wasn't that bad.
I know
Goodness.
That. No, I know that. But I know your parents had kids young, and they were still figuring out career, and it was in an area of Puerto Rico that's not the most wealthy or affluent. Right?
Do you see how carefully you said that?
I mean,
Chris, we're not politically correct on this podcast.
Okay, it's on the same level.
Good.
So there's a website. I have to find the name of it. But it ranks like places to live. Right? It'll give it like a D or an A or an A+. I forget the name of it. People will probably know what I'm talking about when I mention this. So Kim's Town is on the same scale as Flint, Michigan. Like the place that doesn't even have like drinking or any water that comes out of the hose that's not brown. Like it's on that level. Like the companies that left, the pharmaceuticals and the automotive companies. They automotive, right?
No,
or just the pharmas. Yeah. The big pharma companies that left, it just left the town destitute.
Okay.
Much similar to what happened in Detroit.
Let's set the record straight though. I am hecka proud of where I come from.
Good, you should be.
I love my little beautiful island of Puerto Rico.
You should be.
But that doesn't mean that what Chris is saying is not true. All of that is true. Economic growth is not there. There's no opportunities. There's a lot of poverty.
Puerto Rico's biggest export are people, professionals.
Exactly.
That's the biggest export is humans.
I remember moving to the States.
Yeah.
And having no clue that homeless people were homeless.
Oh, no.
At all.
Guys.
Why? Because here, homeless people are fully clothed.
No.
They have backpacks. They have phones.
No.
They have, I'm not saying that they're well off by any means, but comparison to what it's like in Puerto Rico, it is a world. And you have seen it.
No. Yeah.
You know when somebody is homeless in Puerto Rico. There is no question about it.
They got, legit, they look like they just got out of Vietnam. For real.
They have no shirts. Sometimes they have no clothes. They usually have no shoes.
And they're bleeding.
It's intense.
It's real bad.
So, perspective. I think that in the U.S., as I come into this culture, one of the things that bothers me the most about America, as much as I love America, I am a patriot, a Texan. I am so proud of this country. But the reality is we are coddled like crazy.
We are.
I mean, there is no... It's embarrassing. We don't understand what it actually looks like to struggle for real.
No.
And that's not to dismiss anyone's personal issues or the things that we go through that are hard. We all go through stuff.
Yeah.
But as a collective, the fact that you can go and get anything delivered via Amazon that you freaking want, that there's an Instacart service that'll bring you groceries to your house, that you have power and water consistently. As a kid, I remember, you can ask Brian, we would take showers in the rain all the time. Because the water would just go out. That was just a thing that happened. The power would just go out. That was just the thing that happened. And here, little tiny things happen and people lose their freaking mind. I mean, it's like literally the apocalypse. It's like, y'all, we have to correct this in our culture. We are breeding weakness and comfort, and we're cuddling the heck out of the next generations to the point that the entitlement and the belief systems of this new generation are beyond comprehension. We have literal adults in this world who are suing their parents because they did not have consent. They didn't give their parents consent to bring them into the world.
So
I mean, the level of insanity in our culture and entitlement and the belief that you deserve everything in life and that everything should be peaches and, you know, cream is wild to me. It drives me crazy. And I can just go on a rant for 2 hours. But the reality is we need perspective. Wake the heck up. You live in a country where you can become anything you want to be at any point in time, and your biggest holdup is putting yourself out on YouTube. Like, for real?
I mean,
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's first world problems on steroids.
No. Yeah.
And then the excuses of like, I am just too busy and I'm too tired to put content. I'm like, really? You're too busy to answer the call that God has put on your life? Is that going to check out at the end of your life when he asks for an account? Is that what you're going to say? Lord, I'm sorry. I was just tired. I was just so busy.
It's the
homie.
It's the first it's the 4 seasons of first world problems.
It's exactly.
It's like exactly. It's the top of the top of first world problems.
Lord Jesus, give me patience. I mean, it's insane.
It's so bad.
And so if we're
I'm not passionate about it,
I just don't feel in alignment. You know how many times I hear that one? I just don't feel in alignment. Get the heck.
Yeah.
Are you going to feel in alignment working 60 hours in corporate?
Yeah.
Are you going to feel in alignment when you don't have money to pay your bills? Yeah. Are you going to feel in alignment when you don't have money to pay for groceries so your kids can eat tonight?
Yeah.
My gosh. Yeah. I mean, it's softy McSofty, like you would say.
It's softy McSoft pants.
I mean, we expect that everything's got to be our dream situation. It's like you work towards that, okay? Yeah. It takes years of work and endurance, resilience. Get some strength in you.
Even some of our people, they don't want to grow their business because of like what will come with that.
I know.
And I'm like,
oh my God, Lord Jesus.
What?
Okay. Yeah.
Like what?
We should talk about that too.
You know, like, but the reality is that it's a blessing to be able to bless other people. It's a blessing to be able, like, if that's your central focus, your focus is too much on you.
It's all about you.
It's all about you.
It's all about you.
And it's not about, but I could help these people.
Right.
Or I could employ more people that right now need a job because the economy sucks.
Yep.
Right? Like, we're not thinking like that.
No.
We're only thinking about ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so if that's where you're at, like, check yourself, bro.
Yeah.
Because I think I bring that weak sauce to the playground with God sometimes, like when I pray. I'll be like, God, here's my problems. And it's like, I catch myself in the middle of prayer. I'm like, no. I'm embarrassed by that prayer. I take it back. Like hardened. Like I'm not, nope. I'm good. I don't need that. You know, but like, I don't know, man. Sometimes I've talked about this before. Like, you know, like what houses y'all grow up in?
I know, right?
You know what I mean? Like,
did your parents just like let you slide on in with all your desires and demands?
My grandfather was a Marine, and he faked his ID at 14 to try to join the Marines at 14.
Right.
And they caught him. They're like, "There's a fake ID. Like, you're not joining the Marines at 14 years old."
Right.
The guy, he never gave me a hug my whole life. My whole life. My whole life. He says men don't hug.
Oh my God.
And now it's
we don't want to take it to the extreme either.
That's what I was gonna say. That's too far. That's too far.
Way too far.
But he's like, men don't hug.
Men don't hug.
I remember like when I started growing facial hair and like he got on me about that, you know, like men shave and, you know, because it was military and this and that. And like, I don't know, man. Like I feel like I'm soft, and sometimes I hear what some of our people say to us, and I'm like, do you not hear yourself?
There's an echo in the call. I thought you said this.
You know what I'm saying? Like, do you hear yourself? Yeah. And sometimes I know you're only thinking about yourself for these people. This is not like just complaining about whatever. Like, we all have our thing, right?
Yeah.
But like, they'll know at the time, like, we're going through like a difficult season or whatever. Like, we'll make we're not hide like stuff that's going on in our world, right? Yeah. Like, we tell people what's going on, and they'll still come to us with like real soft stuff, like, you know, self-serve softy ice cream, you know what I mean? And it's like knowing.
Like, what is an example? I have one.
Okay, what's your example?
It can be like, oh my gosh, I'm working so hard in my business this week. I feel like I have worked for like 70 hours. And when we're looking at their deliverables,
it's true.
They're like 6 months behind their action plan.
Hours?
Right.
Yeah.
They're acting like they're just working so hard. And like, listen, I'm here for it. I'm here for hard work. But their definition of hard work and output needs correction. It's pretty, you know what I mean?
It's a pretty low bar.
Then sometimes too, I will see them messing around on social media.
Oh, always.
But they don't have the time because they've been working so hard.
No.
And I'm like, wait, I follow you. I see your stuff. We talked about last month. You told me your revenue's down and you're freaking out.
Like, barely keeping the doors open.
And we put together a plan that you were all in on. And yet, this is what I haven't seen your ads. I haven't seen your YouTube videos. I haven't seen your marketing campaigns. But I have seen some reels. I have seen some stories documenting what you're eating for lunch today, which does nothing for your business and isn't related at all to what you do. If you're a dietitian, different story. Different right? Stories, yeah. But this is not
one excuse.
I'm like, y'all have to really face the facts here.
Yeah.
You got to look in the mirror and say, what am I not bringing to the table today? Yeah. What did I put ahead of the things that I said were my priorities? Excuses.
Do you think a lot of it, though, in that situation is that you're hiding from the thing because you're afraid to deal with it?
Absolutely. I think there's so much like mess in our head sometimes.
I think we try to
cope.
Yeah, we try to cope.
And we avoid.
We try to cope.
It's avoidance.
That's what I was looking for.
Yes.
Yeah, you avoid the thing by, playing on social media.
It's like, I was productive and I worked really hard today.
Binge watching.
No, you did not.
Binge watching your favorite show. And like, it's going to come back and it's going to be worse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, what do they tell you when you start antibiotics? Like, hey, when you start them, you got to finish them. I'm not a subscriber of that, by the way. But anyways.
We're hyper crunchy.
But the saying still, yes. You're right.
You start, you got to finish.
But yeah. So like when they're like, if you only take a couple, it is going to come back worse than it was before.
Yeah.
Like every time we do this escapism nonsense to ourselves, the problem's just going to get worse.
100%.
It's just going to come back.
100%.
And that's where we start getting like crazy illogical as people. And this is, again, like everything we say, oh my God, I feel like a broken record. But I'm like, we've been through it. Yeah. But you know what got us to see the ish for what it is? Somebody else telling us, what are you doing?
Yep.
Right? Whether that's a coach or therapist, whatever, like,
put your big girl pants on.
If you're playing this game by yourself, you're not even going to realize you're doing this to yourself.
It's true.
Like, that's the thing with gaslighting, is you don't know you're gaslighting yourself.
You think, right? You know what I think is really funny too? Our clients come to us because they're like, we know you're not going to BS us and you're going to tell us the truth.
Like it is.
And I think that is such a statement or a reflection of our space, of our society, of our culture, where in business, we have business coaches and mentors who would rather coddle you into submission, like lull you into a sleep, than to wake you up to the reality that there is something between your ears that is causing major obstacles in your business and it's holding you back. We have so many scaredy pants leaders in this generation that are unwilling to call a spade, to speak truth into your life, because the culture has said that if you speak truth, you're being mean. Yeah. No, honey. There is no love in lying to people. There is no love in keeping people stuck in a place that they cannot actually prosper. It is not kind to tell people that The sky is actually red and not blue.
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
Mm-hmm.
Agreeing with delusion is not loving.
No.
And I think that we have gotten that so twisted into our culture, especially in the female space, where everyone needs to be hypersensitive to everyone's feelings and emotions. Yeah. And we just end up lying to ourselves.
Yeah.
That's not healthy. Yep. I'm not saying you need to be mean. I think that you can say it with a lot of love, with a lot of kindness, but you have to be willing to call other people up if you're a leader, and you have to be willing to hear other people challenge you and call you up out of your situation and into a higher level of effectiveness and prosperity. Because if it wasn't for people who called us up and said, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing this way?
True.
Why aren't you going for the big thing? You know, we have coaches who called me out many times. Kim, let me tell you right now. I remember a coach told me this.
Happened to me today.
Did it happen to you?
Happened to me today.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. We got to tell me about it.
It wasn't
later.
a mindset thing. It was like, well, kind of,
Strategy?
I guess. It was a strategy thing.
Nice.
They called me out. They're like, why would you do that if you know it's not serving you?
I
like,
love that.
Hey,
That's
you're
awesome.
Right. You're right.
But I remember one of my coaches, he compared me to one of the most prominent people in my space, one of the girls who's really prominent. And he said, you know what the difference is between you and her? And I was like, no, what? She outspends you on ads.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. And it's a notable, like, it's a notable prominent name.
I was like, whoa. It's like, you are not.
Yep.
You are.
But why?
But specifically.
Why were you not, though?
Why was I not what?
Spending more.
Because I was scared.
Exactly.
Because I was scared. And I didn't think I was good enough.
Right.
I thought she's better than me. Yeah. Right? And I don't have what it takes.
Yeah.
And I internalized that and kept myself small in a little tiny box of my own creation for so many years, when God was saying, run, baby, run.
Yeah.
Go take the space and the place that I have set for you.
Something I really respect that, and Kim's been pushing me to do it because I need to do it. And it helps me when I do. But something that Kim has subscribed to that I think is crazy beneficial is every morning you spend time with God.
Yep.
You're in the Word. You're journaling. Every night you go to bed, you're not playing on your phone.
But I wasn't good about that for many years.
No, at night I'm watching, Japanese anime and, like for real. I was watching Dragon Ball last night. I was. I admit it. I'm watching whatever.
So I love. You know how much I love it. You're transparent. Like you are no like BS. Everything is transparent. You don't try to put up a front. You're just who you are. I love that about you. Anyway, continue. You were complimenting me.
Thank you. Back to your compliment. So I'm watching, children's anime, right? Basically, and it is rated 13 plus, to be fair.
Okay.
So, anyways,
cartoons.
So, anime. So. Kim's over there journaling. Like,
don't let my mom catch you watching cartoons.
Oh, I know.
Because you will hear about it.
It's not cartoons, it's anime. It's different. So anyway, Kim's over there journaling, like pages and pages and pages. And I think the coping mechanism that we have now is to just fill ourselves with distractions. I was talking about before, like your escapism.
Yeah.
And so for me, right, at the end of the day, I'm like, I just want to watch something to take my mind off of it. And one of the practices that a lot of people have, and I think Kim has really leaned into this and it's benefited her a lot, is taking time to actually work through those things, work through your fear, work through your anxieties, give yourself, there's so much noise in our day, there's so much noise in our world, there's so much noise in our business, so much noise everywhere we go. Like spending some time and actually processing your thoughts. And I think when you actually do that, what you realize is like the answer that you're looking for that's going to get you out of fear is not distracting yourself with Japanese 1980s anime. It's not distracting myself with watching The Office yet again for the 785th time, meaning the entire show, not like individual episode, like watching it through binged 785 times, or playing video games. Like we have found a way to distract ourselves from the things we fear through the things that we escape into. And I think it really doesn't serve us to actually process our thoughts in a way that allows us to, look, the faster you can get through your mental hurdles, the faster you can process what's going on in your world, in your head, the faster you're going to arrive at the thing that's going to lead to the thing you actually want.
100%.
And I think Kim has really done a good job of that. And now I see her through situations of crises navigate it insanely better than maybe any other time that I've seen anybody navigate crises. And so it's a really good practice that you've adopted, and I'm going to stop watching Japanese anime and actually get on my journal. And dude, I don't like writing because my handwriting looks like a 2-year-old, but type it then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I spend time, I put my headphones on, I listen to worship music or whatever. Like I'll listen to synthwave. I don't know. I listen to weird stuff. You know what I mean? Like I listen to weird stuff. It is what it is.
But you know what? I think that journaling is one of the most powerful things you can do.
I think it is.
It was something that one of my health coaches recommended, Lahana Vigliano from New True Wellness. Shout out to Lahana.
Hey.
Because I was in the midst of, oh my gosh, the worst health crisis. And we're going to talk more about that because we're still going through that. I'm still recovering.
Kim didn't sleep for like 2 years, like for real.
Yeah, like, I'm going on 3 now.
Yeah, like
it's
a couple
crazy.
hours a week type situation. You know what I mean? And like no
That
one
was
even
brutal.
knew that was going on because that's not how she showed up.
Yeah. But, you know, it's editing your thoughts. It's seeing them on paper and saying, hold up, that's not right.
Yeah.
It's coaching yourself, really, it is, into a better way of thinking and processing how you're feeling. And that doesn't happen every single day, but oftentimes I will be journaling. And I usually journal. I journal a lot. I journal as much as I need to. Like sometimes
Pages
it's
a day.
like 6 to 8 pages of this like giant
And it's
notebook.
not, we're not talking note cards. Like it's a big page.
It's a big page.
I got through several episodes last night
But that's
of Dragon Ball while you were
That's true. But that's because I have a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I need to, you know, unload that. Otherwise, it starts really showing up in the way that I interact with you and my relationship, you know, in our marriage. It starts showing up in the business. And we're at a point where I can't afford to have my mind not right.
Yeah.
And so looking at what I'm writing, I will constantly self-correct and be like, this is not true.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this completely wrong perspective, challenging my own thought process and bringing myself back into reality and then partnering with God, because I'm journaling and really I start my every single page with Dear God, and it's me just
I do that
talking to
too.
him.
That's crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It just feels more natural.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I do.
It does. But also because I want God to be the one who has the ultimate word and the ultimate filter on my thoughts.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, this is the truth, and I can anchor myself in the word.
And
know that my thoughts need to be filtered through the word.
And write those down.
And write it down instead of like thinking that everything that the world is telling me and all the input from and the pressure from culture and society is true. I have to come back to like, no, this is what the word says. This is what my Father says. And therefore I'm moving forward in
sometimes
faith.
I have to reject the lies, and I'll hear God say, remember the promises.
100%.
Remember the promises.
Yeah.
Because I'll hear the lies and I start to believe them, and my mind starts to spiral and go in crazy places. And that's the thing about entrepreneurs, is that we do have big vision. A lot of us do.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately your big vision can become big nightmare if you're not keeping it under control. And so I have to stop it and be like, nope, that is not the promise. And God will remind me, remember the promises, remember the promises. So, you know, I think that's a daily thing. And I also think too, is, you know, I'm a big subscriber to learning. I'm a big subscriber to reading. And when I don't read, Kim knows immediately. She's like, I'm reading. And I think hearing about people that are doing the things that you aim to do or have already done them, you know, following like the titans of industry, the guys that have done big things, that or the gals that you want to follow and admire and you know, kind of, you know, model them as an example. It makes you realize that this is part of the game. This is part of what everybody goes through. You know, like, I don't know if you knew this story. I was reading, I don't remember, a lot of books. I can't remember the name of it. It was called something Scale. It was by Reid Hoffman, something Scale, like Hyperscale or something like that. Anyways, so he was talking about Airbnb. Get this. So Airbnb, Brian Chesky, I really respect Brian Chesky. Of all the tech bros, I think Brian's cool. He's one of the. I know his right hand man, Chip Conley. Shout out to Chip. He's a really cool guy.
He's fellow millennial too. He's really young.
He's what? Chip?
Brian.
Oh, Brian. Yeah, Brian. No, yeah, Chip's older. Anyways, so they just built Airbnb. They were exploding, right? Well, apparently overseas, I think this was in Europe, there are like companies out there that they poach ideas from the U.S. and then they build a European version. Like that's like their whole thing, is they literally steal American ideas and then they just, because I was going to say something. We won the war.
I thought that was China. Oh, like China does that
too.
constantly.
No, it is China. China does that too. My uncle actually has the this is a true story. My uncle has the patent on consumer grade metal detection, like those little things you wave against the sand. My uncle actually owns the patent on the consumer version of those. He takes military products and he makes consumer versions of them. So if you go to Academy,
Chris,
for real,
you need to stop acting like the audience doesn't believe you.
They don't believe
this entire episode. You're like, but really, but this
real.
is a true story.
I know it sounds crazy, but it's actually true. No, his name's Tom Walsh.
We believe you.
I'm dead ass.
His name's
Tom Walsh.
Tom Walsh.
Tom, shout out to Uncle.
Uncle Tommy.
Uncle Tommy. So, anyways, he told me he has to have all these attorneys all over.
Yeah.
Like his retainer, just in return, and just in attorneys every month is like $60,000. I'm not joking.
Just
because,
to defend his patent overseas.
Yeah, and he said he called the Chinese. The Chinese are bastards. They steal all of his stuff. They
What's
buy it
ruthless,
and they hack
Chris,
it.
is that they do hack it and then they sell it back to us on Amazon.
Yeah,
like every time
you get on Alibaba and they stole his stuff and they're selling
But like
it.
every time there's like an innovative product, wait 2 years and like the bootleg version is going to be on the market, and it's like what? Anyway, but we are getting off on another tangent.
Yeah, so Brian basically, this company launched, I forget the name of the business, but they launched a competitor to Airbnb, and then guess what they do? They call you and they want the buyout, but they also wanted 25% of the American, like as royalty. They want 25% of the American company too. And so I think it was Zuckerberg actually that like said like, dude, you got to crush them. Like, so like they had that breakthrough, and then boom, somebody copied them and then tried to use their copycat to like put themselves in a position of not only acquisition, but then with that M&A, they're going to leverage themselves into the Airbnb as an equity on the cap table. Like for real. Like how bold is that, right? So I don't know, man. Like I don't remember why we really started the premise of that. Why we started the premise of that story?
I don't know.
Anyways, I don't know. But guys, stepping into this stuff. Oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. Like when I read about, that's what I was going to say. When I read about stuff like this, I'm like, oh, like my problems are easy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
someone was about to crush your company.
Yes. Like
with
you
your
built
own
this
idea.
Mega behemoth. Somebody stole it and tried to leverage it against you. Mm-hmm. Like my email open rate's going to be fine. You know, like chill out. Like keep your pants on.
Like the angry comments are going to be okay.
Yes.
We're going to survive.
The one YouTube person that doesn't even have a profile picture,
right?
That was like, like okay, delete it, move on.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here?
Yes.
So
and what's crazy about that too, Chris, is like we never think of it that way too, because we are so afraid of rejection, because we've been conditioned to really respond to rejection and fear, and because our culture and society has been pumped with fear. I feel like it's scary enough to start a business.
It's on
you don't need
it's on purpose
steroids.
Too. It's
of course it is.
It's a psyop. It's 100%. On purpose to put you into fear.
1,000% on purpose.
Yeah. People in fear will accept authority
anything.
more readily.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw that in the pandemic. Oh my goodness. I mean, people were like ratting out their neighbors. I mean, it was just absolutely insane. And so we're seeing the escalation of fear in the world as a whole. What is most important for you to understand, and if you don't take away anything else from this podcast, take this away. The war in your mind needs to be won on a daily basis. The enemy knows that if he can inject fear, doubt, constant imposter syndrome, he can effectively dwindle the gift that God has put in your life and render it ineffective before it even is birthed. Yep. What a great strategy.
That's his only shot.
That's his only shot.
That's his only shot at stopping what God has planned 100%. For your life. That's his only shot.
Because
he's got to make you quit.
He knows that if you choose faith over fear, that if you let yourself step into the calling fully, knowing that your Father is the King of the universe and he will provide even if the enemy is rendered completely,
he has no authority,
completely ineffective in your life. And so understand that this isn't just about us, kind of poking fun at you guys, or us trying to be mean, or telling you that your fear is not that big of a deal and being self-righteous. No, that's us telling you that this is more than just about, the Instagram post or the YouTube strategy or you actually moving forward despite, having a bad month in your business. It's about legacy, and it's about the gift that God has placed in your heart and you stewarding it responsibly and with intention.
Yep. No, dude, could not. Mic drop. Can we just call it a day? Like, we're good.
So
have a good day.
Guys, if this episode was impactful, would you be on mission with us and share it with a friend? The podcast cannot grow. Listen, if we wait for the YouTube algorithm, it's going to be forever.
That's true.
We need you guys to partner with us. Send it to your friends.
This is too based. This is too based for the YouTube algorithm. we need your help. We have to overcome. We have to overcome.
Send it to your friends who need encouragement, who need that reassurance, who need someone who's going to tell them we have been there, we've come out the other side, and you you can do it too. Share it with everyone you know, because it helps us to reach more people, help encourage more online entrepreneurs to beat fear, to really take hold of God's promises, and to not stay in a perpetual state of anguish because the enemy is attacking them nonstop. So would you do that? And then also comment below with any questions that you might have about fear or future episodes that you want us to create.
I'm gonna tell you right now. This is not a call to action. It's it's seriously. Don't come back here without a coach. It doesn't have to be us. It doesn't have to be us. It doesn't have to be us.
I agree.
But the enemy wants you in isolation.
It's true.
He wants you in isolation. Why? Because he knows that he can dominate your mind and push you into fear without somebody doing what needs to be done as a coach or a therapist. I don't care. Whoever it is.
Yeah.
Like, get those people in your life that can speak truth and remind you of the calling and remind you of the lies that you're being told and remind you of the lies you're telling yourself.
Right.
Please.
It makes a huge difference.
Stop doing this in isolation.
Alone,
it's exactly where the enemy wants you, is in isolation. Please. Like, I cannot tell you enough. One of our clients was like, I'm thinking about doing this. And I'm like, blep. Like, that's your third coach? Don't care. Like, he's like, well, I don't know. No, you need another coach. You need that. That's what you need in your business. It's what you need. Quit. This has been a problem. This has been a problem that's been persistent. You need to combat it, and you need a coach that's going to help you navigate it. Like, that's how you need to operate. So whatever you need to do, get those people in your life, because I'm telling you right now, it will make all the difference. You can have all the strategies in the world. You can have all the chat GPTs in the world. You can watch every bloody YouTube video all over the world, listen to every single podcast, until you win the war in your mind, until you have those people in your corner as resources to help you. I promise you, you're gonna find that you're fighting a losing battle. You're taking one step forward and two steps back, and you're gonna literally become your own worst enemy in your mind. And then guess what? You start to feel defeated, and then eventually you just stop.
Yeah.
We don't want that to happen to you. God has a calling in your life, and it's important and it matters.
Amen. I love that. We're rooting for you. We love you. Un beso. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.